Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, we are discussing a ship that was one of the main victims of the CV rework. One of the most unpopular things that the devs have ever done with the game, although the introduction of submarines is giving that a pretty darn good run for its money. And the ship we're talking about is the one you see on your screen right now, the Texas, the Tier 5 Premium New York class battleship. Now, the Texas has a special place in my heart for several reasons. One, this is the second premium I ever bought in this game. First one being the Turpets, made the usual mistake that newer players get. Saw the shiny Tier 8 premium German battleship and bought that. Realized I didn't know what I was doing, then docked that. And then I bought the Texas to help me with my American battleship grind. Now, the Texas, when I bought her back in the day, was a little while after her introduction in May of 2016. I started playing this game, I think, late 2016, early 2017. And I remember the Texas was still fairly new when she was released. So what is Texas's thing? Well, the Texas in-game is supposed to reflect the real-life Texas, which, as the war went on, World War II, they just kept frickin' bolting AA down on the ship. Obviously, with the way things were going in the war, especially in the Pacific, aircraft became a very large concern for the U.S. Navy. And if you notice in Game 2, many of the ships in the American tech line, they have either a pre-Pearl Harbor or early war variant, and as you go through their hulls, they keep strapping AA down on the ships. And pre-World War I dreadnoughts were no exemption from that too. Texas served quite a lot during the Second World War. And what's very cool about the Texas is that you can see her in real life today. Although you can't tour her currently, she's finally, thank God, getting dry docked and getting a lot of the problems with her hull fixed. Where she sits at in Galveston, Texas, not Galveston, in San Jacinto Battle Park right now, she sits in salt water and her hull has not been taken care of, and according to the Battleship Texas Foundation, the hull in many places was thinner than paper, and when you're trying to support the weight of a dreadnought on top of that, that's not very bueno. So thankfully she's finally getting dry docked. She's going to get repaired, and I believe Galveston is one of the rumored places where she's going next, to where she can finally get some more tourists to visit her, which I'm very happy to see. Texas is currently the only dreadnought, well, super dreadnought, a battleship left floating in the world. And only there's the Mikasa, but that's pre-dreadnought, and then it's cut in half and in cement, and Texas still floats, but you can argue all you want in the comments about that. But anyway, the Texas in-game, her thing is AA. Now, back in the day, her AA, and it's still true in some regards today if you take a blind eye toward what they changed about her, she had the best AA in the game until you got to Tier 8, at Tier 5. This ship was nuts with AA. If you built into it, you could get the Texas's AA out to 5.2 kilometers, and this ship had over triple the AA DPS of the New York. New York right now, her medium range AA has 70 DPS. The Texas has a medium range AA DPS of 329 DPS. Texas's close range DPS is 336. When you compare that to New York's 112 DPS, and that is with the fully upgraded New York. Both are stock. No modules have been applied. Well, no commander skills nor modules have been built into the AA for those figures. So yeah, a Tier 5 battleship with 5.2 kilometer AA range with absolute god tier AA was a wonderful ship to have back in the day. Back in the day of the RTS CVs, when CVs could literally just annihilate your ship with one or two drops. Texas was such a no-fly zone that no experienced CV player went near her without expecting to lose essentially the entire squadron. That's how good the AA on the Texas was. It was a sight to behold. I have an older video on my channel called the AA Gauntlet, and I ran a bunch of high-tier AA ships through it. It was back when you could just cram like 10 or 12 CVs on the enemy side in the training room. I shoved 12 midways on the enemy side and ran a bunch of AA ships through it, and Texas did pretty darn well going up against even tier 10 planes and a tier 5 battleship. But now, this is not the case. This is most certainly not the case, I'm sure, as you can tell by the match watching behind you. With the CV rework and continued changes to the way AA works, Texas's AA has been absolutely just nerfed into the dirt. And the big change was the range. Now with AA, with battleships at least, you can't really increase the range. It's all just set at a certain range, and there's no way to increase it. You're stuck with this 3.5 kilometer AA now. 3.5 kilometer AA. Now, granted, you still have great DPM and stuff. DPS and such. But the enemy planes are in your AA bubble for 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds. Which, yeah, sure, you've got monster DPS, but if the planes aren't spending time in your AA, you're not going to do near what the Texas was able to do beforehand. And just look at the background footage you're watching right now. This is a double CV game, double tier 6 CV game. Old school Texas, CVs wouldn't even go anywhere near the ship. If they did, they'd lose a lot more than 1 or 2 planes a pass. And especially if you're someone who's played Texas a lot back in the day, and you get a match like this and see what's happening right here, it's almost unbelievable. This what you're seeing right now would be how Texas would perform beforehand if like 80% of her AA mounts were broken. And that's just how she normally is nowadays. Now, of course, in the video you're watching, I have lost quite a few AA mounts, given that I was being issue spammed by Thingabadundi on this flank. But still, the majority of the AA was intact, and still, these CVs are just walking through it. I mean, yeah, they're losing a plane or two, but it's not what it should be with the Texas. Now, why is this a big deal for Texas? Well, 1, that's her main thing. It's her AA. 2, she gave up a lot to get this AA. Like, especially when compared with the New York, oh my god. Just about every other aspect about the Texas is worse than the New York. For example, the firing range. Both ships equipped with the Special American Plotting Room Mod 1. The New York has a range of 20.9 kilometers, and the Texas has a range of 19.5 kilometers, 0.05 kilometers. Now, that was actually buffed. The Texas did get a buff there to her range, slightly, to bring it almost closer to the New York. I think it used to be more like a 3 kilometer difference back in the day. So that did get buffed, but a major downside is her reload time. On her 10 14-inch guns, and everything else about the guns are the same between the Texas and the New York. So like the AP damage, everything else about it, the accuracy, it's all the same. Both have 1.8 Sigma. She has a 34.2 second reload time on her guns. 34 seconds! Where the New York has 30.5 seconds. We're not done yet either. The Texas, since she has so much more AA bolted onto her, for balancing purposes, she had to be a little bit more slower. So her maximum speed is 20.5 kilometers base, and the New York's maximum speed is 21 knots, not kilometers, my bad. 20.5 oh my god, 20.5 knots, jeez, base, and then the New York is 21, and the Texas even has a larger turning circle at 650 meters, and a much slower rudder shift time at 14 seconds instead of the 11 seconds of the New York. So, in pretty much every other instance, it's a worse New York, but with what used to be God tier AA, and now this God tier AA is gone, and now you have what is essentially a worse New York with good AA in a very, very, very short range. Now, of course, there's definitely the argument that the CV rework changed how planes work as well. CVs, unless you're an FDR or a Nakamov, don't have the crazy alpha strike that they used to, so you can't really have these no-fly zones anymore, and for balancing reasons this needed to happen. And I understand that, but this is a ship that people paid money for because it was so good at shooting down planes and being a no-fly zone. And the ship hasn't really been compensated in any way, shape, or form for that. Sure, the range buff was nice, but do I still really have to have a 34-second reload on guns that don't shoot as far as a tech line ship. Like, why can't we buff that down to, I don't know, it still has pretty decent AA, so why not 32 seconds? That'd be a much more usable reload time than 34 seconds. None of that has changed. And again, I understand that you can't have this insane AA anymore, but we can't buff the range a little bit. We can't, you know, again, give it a faster reload time or something else to make up for the fact that it's now just a worse New York with an AA that could shoot down 2 or 3 planes from a tier 6 CV when it flies into it. And this isn't the only ship that has happened to Atlanta. Atlanta's still a pretty good AA ship too, but again, her range has been nerfed as well. There's been quite a few other ships that this was their thing, you know, low tier god AA ships that just aren't able to do it anymore. And it does suck. It sucks a lot. Again, especially for those of us that spent money on these ships. And by the end of this match, I think I managed to shoot down like 22 planes while being the main focus of the Ryujo for a good portion of the match. Only 22 planes in the Texas. 22 planes in the Texas pre-nerf was like an SCV kind of attacked you once or twice. And now, after being the main focus of, again, I think it's the Ryujo for a good portion of the match, just 22 planes. That's it. Yeah. It sucks that this happened to the ship, and again, no major buffs were had. Again, the extra range on the main guns is nice, but I mean, again, a buff to the reload time would be much more preferable at this point to make this ship worth it once again. Now, the ship is still available for, I believe, like 5,200 doubloons, something along those lines at the moment. I unfortunately would not buy it at all, which it kind of pains me to say that because I do have fond memories of this ship, and again, it's a real steel ship. And Wargaming has done a lot to help out the Texas. They've ran several special events selling the Texas, where a portion of the profits went to the real-life Texas and to her restoration and her upkeep, which I gotta give them kudos for that, but this doesn't change the fact that they kind of ruined the ship in game. But anyway, guys, that's my look back at the Texas. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday and have a wonderful week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 35,000 subs, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.